Hey, how you guys doing? How's it going, guys? Great to see you. Comicsgate always comes out, even when there are no notifications for YouTube. That's the amazing thing about it. You guys are the best, and you guys are in the chat already. I see there is the amazing Shimera, aka Shimmy, aka you know who you are, publisher of SOS. Great to see you, man. Always great to see you. And I see you have a Simon Bisley cover coming on an updated book. Let's talk about that. Let's get you on the show too to talk about it. That is very cool to have a Simon Bisley cover on any kind of Comicsgate book. And of course, Shimmer, it was time to give you a wrench. You guys, a lot of you guys already support me in the other chats. You're publishing the College of the Dead Graduation Day book. I really appreciate it because that the campaign for College of the Dead Graduation Day has gotten really, really a lot of support from Comicsgate. It's doing like 5 times as much business, like 500% of what the first campaign was doing at this time. It's absolutely incredible. All thanks to Comicsgate. Thanks, Adam Postal. I don't know about that nickname, Postal. It's better than post-op. Sometimes I get called post-op, and I have to say postal is probably more complimentary than post-op. But College of the Dead Graduation Day is doing great, and you guys are definitely taking care of me big time when you got these links, especially when Ethan's live, when John's live, a couple of the other big channels, even the small channels, just for people getting to see College of the Dead Graduation Days around. It's because you guys have supported College of the Dead Graduation Days so much already. I've been able to start Spring Break, College of the Dead Spring Break, which I'm going to be shipping absolutely. Well, book 2 is going to ship in June 2020. Book 3 will ship in January 2020. That one is already happening. That is a guarantee. Stu, amazing to see you. Stu, I'm glad you're around so much. It's great to see you around. You are a lot of fun, and I think you are associated with the Spurg Force as well, the guys who really know how to figure out who is wearing what, where they're wearing it. Bears, great to see you around. I don't know how you're around all day, Bears. I have to learn more secrets about Bears, but Bears seems to be available wherever things are happening and it's hot. Bears will be there. Speaking of where things are hot, so to speak, I'm going to also be on Literature Devil's channel tomorrow morning. We're going to hang out for another morning show. I may have to make that a regular thing with him. He and I get along great. He's got a great chat. We have a lot of fun out there. Eric, of course, you have to be professional. You are now absolutely part of the professional group of people who get, wrenches. And yes, you're out there representing. Todd McFarlane did an interview recently. We're going to go over that in a second. That Bleeding Cool published some interesting parts of talking about saving the comic book industry. I do have some criticism for it because I'm kind of looking at it. I'm thinking to myself, like, well, I don't know. I mean, Todd is kind of a big deal in comics. There's a lot he could do, and he's kind of waiting for some people. Yes, definitely subscribe. Thank you for mentioning that, Brian. I'm very close here. We're very close to getting to 1,000 subs. I get to 1,000 subs, and some crazy stuff's going to happen in a good way. Some crazy, crazy stuff is going to happen in a good way. I will be able to get super chats, but I'm going to get a lot more involved on YouTube, be able to spend a lot more time on it, which is really cool. I really like YouTube. It's a hell of a lot of fun, and we all kind of get better at it as we do it more. Bears is going to say something crazy. Let's see what it is. Got Thursday and Friday off for the next month. Most of my heavy workload doesn't start until the mid-morning. Okay, that's what's going on. That's why we get to see so much of Bears. So that is good news. Bears, unfortunately, is not on Twitter, but we do see him on YouTube, almost like a panboy kind of thing. And gaming, you backed Todd earlier today. Everybody's backing Todd. Todd's doing very well on his Kickstarter. We'll take a look at it. Right now, he's up to, it's funny, every time you check it, it goes up. He just broke $800,000 on his Kickstarter. So he's going to be doing well for himself. But interestingly, Todd McFarlane does have some advice about how he would save comics and how he would deal with Diamond Comic Distributors. Well, he's already dealing, right, with Diamond Comic Distributors because he is the publisher of Spawn. He is the publisher and owner of Image Comics. So it's kind of funny because you get these major people in comics like Todd McFarlane who they're very involved in comic books, extremely involved in comic books. It's not like he just did a cover and he's like, well, I don't know, I don't really do comics. He's done hundreds of issues of Spawn. He's been doing comics for 30 years. Image Comics is kind of like part of the big three now. It's Marvel, DC, Image Comics. So Image Comics is, dealing with what's going on in comic book stores right now. You would think that's kind of like a big deal. It's sort of what you'd be doing if you're in charge of Image Comics, is you'd be helping to figure out what's going on. So this isn't today's Bleeding Fool. Bleeding Cool, the Day Off Fools. Let's check out what's going on with these guys. So Todd McFarlane's doing promotion and publicity. He's in a lot of publications. He's in Forbes. He's out and around for his Kickstarter, basically talking up his Kickstarter, getting people interested in what's going on with it. And he has an enormous name. So his Kickstarter, there's kind of, I guess he's the biggest name in comics now, right? I mean, there's really nothing bigger in comics in the comic book mainstream industry than Todd McFarlane. For us, we have Ethan Van Sciver in Comicsgate, and for them, they have Todd McFarlane. So Todd McFarlane did this interview with Forbes, and Forbes was asking about the current state of the comic book industry, and Todd had a number of ideas. Mainly his point is here, we have to do something. If you give your customers a chance to break their habit, they may not come back. What's he talking about? Breaking your habit. He's talking about, obviously, business interruption. So if you're used to going and having a certain, doing a certain thing every Wednesday, if you go to the movies every other weekend, whatever your plan is, whatever you do in life as a routine, yeah, of course, there's a chance that if people stop going to comic book stores on Wednesdays and picking up their comics, like 80 to 90% of people who used to buy comics have done. They've already stopped going. So you've got the last bunch of fans, and Todd McFarlane here is warning, like, well, hey, yeah, if you break people's habit of going to comic stores every week, maybe even if they're willing to buy, they're just going to get out of the routine. So he says his Kickstarter is part of his plan to engage with customers and readers. He fears that what the current publishing and distribution pause might mean for the industry. Okay, so will people be more conservative about spending? Will they decide they can live without 3 or 4 months? Okay, without for 3 or 4 months. So maybe they don't need to spend their money on comics, or some people, that have money, will they want to buy new stuff and then go to the stores and find that the stores are out of business? That is part of the whole idea of business interruption. Eric says, McFarlane's the closest thing to Stan Lee we have right now. A lot of normies know who Todd is. That is true. That is true. A lot of people know who Todd McFarlane is because they've been living with him for 30 years at the top of comics as the ultimate creator. The guy who reinvented basically the look of Spider-Man and made Spider-Man incredibly cool looking. Okay. So, what does he say? What does he have to say about what people should do, about what the industry should do? Because it sounds like so far all he's saying is like, hey, some people might want to go buy comics, but if the store goes out of business, they may not be able to buy those comics. So if Todd McFarlane was in charge, now I'm going to say, first of all, he kind of is in charge, right? Because again, he runs Image. Or I don't know what his title is with Image. He's one of the founders. He's publishing Spawn through Image. He's kind of aware of what's going on at Image. He obviously has influence at Image. You met Todd twice. He's awesome. I actually met Todd once at a business thing back when there were multiple comic distributors, the International Association of Direct Distributors, something like that, IADD, back in the early 1990s. Yeah, he's friendly. He's an okay guy. Stupendous says, look at all these people working from home. Companies are going to see that and discuss if they really need those jobs physically. That is true. I've been talking to some other friends of mine in different industries and different businesses, and they've been saying, and I've been saying the same kind of thing. Like, we're probably going to get a lot of productivity out of this because pretty much, you've never had people focusing on working from home this way that we are now. There's a lot of businesses that are still continuing with people working remotely. There's a lot of it. So we'd be incredibly productive if we're able to work from home and save Tony Cates and save all the money that it takes to have people working in the same offices. We want Donnie Cates. Yes, Donnie Cates is the one that's really going to save the industry. So Todd McFarlane says this: if Todd McFarlane was in charge, okay. So let's just read this. Todd McFarlane states the industry needs to speak with one consistent voice right now, so as not to confuse retailers or readers. If he was in charge, okay, he lays out what his plan would be. Now, what he's talking about with the industry speaking with one consistent voice, that's what leadership is. And if you go look for leadership at, first of all, where could the leadership come from? Retailers, the distributor, Diamond Comics, or from publishers? Retailers are completely powerless. They're totally dependent on what the publishers decide. They're not even dependent on what the distributor decides, because the distributor can't do anything about it. They have to kind of wait and see what the publishers say that they're going to do. Simon says, yeah, I like that. Simon says, I can tell you that there are many gaming companies that are all lining up to keep everyone to do remote work. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Shifting to remote work. Why wouldn't they? They're going to save a fortune of money. And even though there's always this worry that if you let employees work at home, maybe they're not really going to work. Maybe they'll just stay on Facebook all day. Well, there's ways of keeping people accountable that companies have been doing for years. And really, hopefully, they'll just be focused anyway on results. Honestly, who cares what people are doing when they're working from home as long as they have results? What's the difference? So Todd McFarlane's idea is that we need to speak with a consistent voice. Well, Steve Geppi, owner of Diamond, can't speak for DC and Marvel. He can give advice, but there's nothing he can do. He has no control over them. It doesn't matter if there'd be 4 or 5 different comic book distributors. The publishers get to decide: are we going to publish good comics, bad comics? What's the price going to be? Especially the big companies, and the big 3 really are Marvel, DC, and Image. So Todd sort of is in charge. Is he going to step up? Well, let's see. Todd's laying out what his plan would be. At the very least, I'd say that surely amongst the leaders, we can throw in 10 new comics for free as digital downloads. That's Todd McFarlane's strategy. That's going to be the strategy. 10 top titles for digital. The ones people really want to read, we can afford it. It doesn't necessarily help the retailers, but we can't allow customers to lose that exercise of being geeks, of getting their regular dose to keep their geekiness going with comics instead of moving on to some other thing like streaming, video, or gaming. So Todd McFarlane's strategy, if he was in charge, this is Todd's leadership. He's got 2 things he's got planned. One, he'll do a Kickstarter and raise $1 million direct to consumer. As we started this stream, and maybe we're going for 13 minutes now, he's done about $6,000 or $7,000 on his Kickstarter during that 10 or 15 minutes. He's doing at least $30,000 an hour on this Kickstarter. So he's got 2 plans. Yeah, Todd calls us addicts. Well, we are addicted to comics. We have to admit that, or we wouldn't be doing this. That part he's probably got right. So Todd's strategy is, okay, number 1, we got to speak with a clear voice. Okay, well, there's no one's got a plan. There are no publishers that are offering to support comics. There are no publishers that are legitimately offering to support comic book stores. Comicsgate is supporting comics. We have the enthusiasm in comics. I've got my book, College of the Dead, but of course there are 100 more Comicsgate books out there. A lot of great ones. We're passionate about comics. We're passionate about making them great. One of the reasons why Comicsgate is passionate about comics and making them great is because if we don't, we deal directly with the fans. The fans will tell us, hey, your books aren't good. We don't want to buy them anymore. We're going to lose the money. And the Kickstarter is up to 800,000. It's going to keep growing. So his first plan, consistent voice. The second plan is, let's push digital downloads for comics. Well, a lot of people don't like digital downloads, right? They just don't like them. I have had comics as digital downloads, but people want the physical comic. So this idea of let's make 10 digital downloads. I mean, he could take all of Spawn's 300 or whatever issues and make them free digitally, right? I mean, nothing would stop him from that. He could push it out through Image and keep people excited about comics and get them even more excited about Image comics. But all right, so 10 digital comics. I don't see how 10 comics is going to work. I don't know what the chat thinks. If the chat thinks that's his main. Basically, his main plan is, let me push digital downloads and we'll give those away for free. That'll save comic stores and do $1 million plus Kickstarter. That Kickstarter is going to do at least 2 million, if not $3 million. It's going to break. He just started the damn thing, and good for him. Good for him. Pale Rider says, I know it's hard to transition. I don't know if you're talking about through genders or what, but let's think about it. But any franchise or character that you love that they'll destroy, consider all that dead. Find yourself new favorites at CG. No, it's true. You go where the passion is. The passion is in CG. Because look at this. This isn't going to, how is it going to save comics, honestly? How could it save comics to have even 10 good comics? And what are these 10 good comics going to be? Just put all of Spawn online if you want. I actually have an idea that he could do. Let's see where it's at right now. All right, he says we can afford it. It doesn't necessarily help retailers. Yes, we read that. Okay. He thinks that this is going to save people from moving on to streaming video or gaming. I'm kind of surprised why Todd McFarlane wouldn't say, listen, we should all support crowdfunding right now. Not his Spawn necessarily. Support comic creators that are making passionate creators where there's enthusiasm. Support the YouTubers that are doing comics, talking about them every day, talking about how great comics are, talking about how great they can be, and putting out books and bringing things back from the 90s, like Ethan Van Sciver's Cyberfrog with a chromium cover. Like that would take people away from streaming video or video games or streaming gaming or whatever. Is like, get people excited about comics. Flat digital downloads, people don't really care about. Todd is saying here, do digital comics have to be free? Couldn't they be 99 cents? And he's saying, oh, no, they've got to be free. We've all done okay. We can afford to give something back. Then when this is over, we can do 3 to 5 events to give people a reason to go back to stores. It is kind of silly. When this first started happening, I was thinking to myself, like, yeah, I think Todd McFarlane, he's a smart businessman. So is Robert Kirkman and a few people who definitely utilize the comic book store system to make themselves millions of dollars. And good for them. That's what they should be doing. They should be making millions of dollars. But as far as talking about, can we give back? Yes, Todd McFarlane can afford to give back. He can afford to give the proceeds of the Kickstarter if he wants to someone else, but he doesn't need to. Everybody should be in this business to make money. Okay, and then he's talking about when everything is over and stores can open up again, to do 3 to 5 events to give people a reason to go to stores. How about just making great comics? That would be an event in and of itself. Like, we'll make great comics, we'll focus on art, we'll focus on story. And now he's talking about doing cross-company stuff to make it sexy. Okay, maybe the industry will be diminished. Depends on how long it goes. It's unknown, but whatever is left is the new norm. Well, here's a crazy idea. If he wants to get people excited about comics, isn't he the guy that kind of reinvented Spider-Man? Why not he takes like 2 or 3 days and make a gorgeous Spawn Spider-Man crossover cover? Why doesn't he just put together a creative team and do a free, since he loves digital downloads, do a free Spawn Spider-Man crossover and just do it and make it free? Start with a cover image for concept art, get people excited about that. You could probably sell it for $250,000 and give it to retailers if you wanted to. $1,000 each to the 250 retailers that needed the most. But just start showing page after page of Spawn versus Spider-Man in a crossover, right? Hale Adam is right, Peter. Wouldn't that work? Spawner Man? I mean, why the hell not do that? And also, you should be supporting Indiegogo that supports creators that don't that doesn't censor creators the way Kickstarter does. The reason we don't focus on hey J-Jax, the reason we don't focus on Kickstarter is because they censor and attack creators just for political beliefs, and not even extreme political beliefs, just ridiculous stuff where if it's not SJW, you don't know how Kickstarter is going to do business with your campaign or not. So that's my idea for Spawn. I mean, I don't know what the chat thinks, but that's my idea. He is in charge. He controls Spider-Man. He controls Spawn, but he also controls the coolest look for Spider-Man that Spider-Man's probably had in the last 40 years or so. Other than like some of the original Spider-Man, Humberto Ramos has done some cool stuff, whatever. But when you think of like that badass, get ass in seats, buy comics kind of look, Yes, Todd McFarlane did it with uh, his version of Spider-Man. So why is he not drawing Spider-Man Spawn crossover? He can help sell Spawn and sell Spider-Man that way and get people excited about comics. There you go, guys. That's all he needs to do. And here's Todd McFarlane addressing retailer concerns. As to concern from retailers about comic books being published digitally, that they're unable to sell in print, McFarlane disagrees entirely. He doesn't agree entirely. Doing nothing can't be the answer. Well, doing nothing is never the answer to a problem, but it's actually better than doing the wrong thing. When you have problems and you haven't thought through what to do, what the solution is, you're not supposed to just run off and go do anything. What you're supposed to do is look at stuff, get more information, figure out the cause and effect of what the heck is going on, and have a solution. Putting energy into doing 10 top free digital comics, frankly, it's not even a good suggestion. It's a distraction. Unless he himself is going to do Spawn versus Spider-Man, that's smart. That's something Marvel would probably even allow him to do, at least up to the point of doing the cover or the free digital. He wouldn't even have to ask Marvel's permission for a cover. Just freaking draw it. Just draw it. Put it out there. Get people excited. Doing nothing, okay. What he should do is put his energy behind Comicsgate, because Comicsgate is actually doing indie comics and doing what Spawn used to try to do at Image. If we all stand still and hold our breath, how does that improve what we're doing now? I mean, again, he's criticizing others for not doing things. He's criticizing leaders for there being a lack of leaders. Well, you guys drove all the leaders out of the industry. Image took over the industry when they left Marvel Comics and started their own company. They took all the enthusiasm that they were allowed to put into Marvel characters on that huge platform, and they stole it and they took it over for Image. And hey, great artists steal. That's what Picasso said. So good for him. Good for him. Good for him and good for the rest of Image. But now Image Comics is the ones who were the leaders. They were the great leaders of comics. Who is the leader? Heather Antos at Valiant? Is he criticizing her? C.B. Cebulski at Marvel or Joe Quesada? None of them take comic books seriously. Todd McFarlane and his crew were the last guys to take comic books really seriously, other than Jim Shooter, who's long out of the industry and Shooter can't do anything for the industry right now. Not that I can see, because he's not currently in it. But McFarlane is still in it. He still controls Image. There's a lot Image could do. McFarlane says to the stores, don't worry about getting issues 307, 308, and 309 that will come out when you're closed. I guess he's talking about Spawn. And you can't get printed copies anyway. Fans will come back for 310 when things reopen. They'll come back for Batman or whatever they're reading. Who cares about the number of the comic you're selling at the same price? Okay. So his idea is substitute only the best comics with digital. Now, the thing is, that's not even coherent, because look, let's assume what he'd be advocating for is not to have continuity and to keep publishing digitally all the comics that people were going to buy in print. That makes some sense. I also don't agree with it, but it makes some sense. He's talking about put out like the top 10 titles, give those away for free so people don't break their habit. Well, a lot of top 10 titles people aren't reading anyway. So it's not like people are going to be able to continue their habit, right? If they don't actually have those titles. Make Spider-Man good again. I mean, people love Spider-Man all over the world. Making Spider-Man good would be nice. Wishing Todd McFarlane was Comicsgate, he's one of the reasons I draw. Yeah, Todd McFarlane inspired a lot of people. So I have no idea why Image Comics hasn't supported Comicsgate. Apparently, they're embracing our idea of selling direct to consumer, and have noticed that Ethan Van Sciver did $1 million on Cyberfrog. That hasn't escaped his attention, but somehow he's forgetting to support the people that are out there in the trenches, really pushing to make comics great, to keep comics great, to bring up opportunities. What Comicsgate does to bring in new creators. I'm not a new creator. I've published, more than 1,000 comic books before I got involved with Comicsgate. However, I wasn't in the business. I wasn't actively publishing. It was Comicsgate that got me interested in pushing out comics again and realizing, hey, I can make comics better than I ever made them before. I can ship these direct to consumer. And it's not like I didn't know what crowdfunding was, but the life and the love in comics is with Comicsgate, and it's right here on YouTube. Yes, you can. There are people that do Kickstarters. There are people that do Indiegogo projects that have nothing to do with Comicsgate. Those are called exceptions to the rule. The opportunity in comics is through Comicsgate and through the Comicsgate network of people that support each other in every way, whether it's just encouragement, feedback on artwork, sources for printers, promotion, cross promotion, endorsements when we see that a book is good and the person actually is Comicsgate and they're going to help build the network. I agree with Donut Swan that Squirrel Girl would take Spider-Man's backhaul. And frankly, that might be what we need to save comics again. And I appreciate that comment. I'm looking forward to when I have super chats and Donut Swan can say really ridiculous things to me and force me to read them. And that wasn't ridiculous. I think that is damn good advice. Eric Huffles says Todd stays out of politics, but most of the other guys at Image are super SJW. That's a good point. It's when you're trying to fix the industry, when you're trying to save something that really it's not even about saving comics. It's this generation's effing destroying comics. They're fucking destroying it. It's totally unnecessary. Who's paying them to destroy comics? It's not necessary. So it's not even about saving comics. It's about impeding the people who are destroying comics, focusing on just making them cool. I don't know how we can do that. That we're doing it through Comicsgate, but obviously Todd is not about saving comics really, or he'd be about like, well, who is doing something for comics right now? I am, other Comicsgate people are. Ethan Van Sciver is kind of doing the most for all of us, but we're all doing our part and we're all trying to make, and we're all succeeding because of it. College of the Dead is doing great. I appreciate all your guys' support. Anybody who hasn't backed College of the Dead, check it out at collegeofthedead.com. Hey, where the hell is Shimmer with the links? Come on, Shimmy. Yeah, if you can, guys, put in links from time to time, and not doesn't have to just be my campaign. Put in links too for Super Harem too. We're just promoting that book for my friend Wenger, another great guy. His new Super Wenger cover, not Super Harem Wenger cover by Carl Oro. Yeah, no one's paying them. They're destroying comics. It's not about saving comics. It's about stopping people from destroying them. Now, here's what's maybe the most silly advice in general, talking about Diamond being a monopoly. Again, Image, Todd McFarlane's actually the publisher at Image, or he's one of the owners at Image. I don't know what his active title is, but he certainly has tremendous ownership and influence at Image. He's one of the reasons that Diamond is a monopoly. It's not because of me. It's not because of Ethan Van Sciver. We don't control Diamond. We don't put any comics through comic stores at this time. It's not because of Peter Simeti. He has no influence really at Diamond. He sells the comics through Diamond to comic book stores as well as directly, but it's not Peter Simeti. It's not Stan Lee. It's the current people who are publishing comics that create a situation where Diamond's a monopoly. So here, if Diamond was a monopoly, Todd also sees a lesson for the comics industry to learn going forward. We have one distributor for print comics, and they decided for safety reasons to cease operations because we're all tied to one person, meaning Steve Geppi. That one decision affects the whole industry. It was probably the right decision, but it's not healthy in the long run for one publisher to hold the fate of the one person, meaning Steve Geppi, to hold the fate of the entire industry. We should be doing a reassessment when we all come out on the other side and ask some hard questions about how to buffer ourselves from this happening again. Yeah, at least you get a little bit of journalism from Bleeding Cool here. It's notable that Diamond Comic Distributors cemented its monopoly on the comics market when Image signed an exclusive deal with Diamond. I was there. Not at Diamond or at Image, but I was there in the industry at the time, rather than its only available distribution rival, Capital City Distribution. That decision may have been over 20 years ago. It was, but repercussions are still being felt even now. Now, about Diamond being a monopoly. Hey, thanks for all these links, guys. You guys are really helping out with that. Damn it, Rob Casey, why are you on Periscope? Get over here on YouTube, damn it. Everybody, make sure you're subscribed, click the bell for notifications, and share this around too. When we get me to 1,000 subs, it's going to get absolutely crazy. I promise you. Yeah, Peregrine. I'm starting to learn how to say that name. Peregrine Wings of the Falcon is one we featured last night too, by Graded 5 and Scott, the Doom Kickers guy. We can show them some love as well. Hatch, thank you for that reminder. Through the Woods, we love Vinny Tartamella as well. Thank you, Simon. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, on Diamond being a not monopoly. Yes, image was a factor in this exclusive. Now, and these exclusive deals get renewed. It's not like you sign an exclusive once and you never review a contract. Image could absolutely review. It could have done it last year. It could do it tomorrow. They can review their exclusive arrangement with Diamond. But this is a silly argument, and it's even a silly statement. The issue was, so Diamond wrote a clever. Steve Jeppe is a brilliant businessman. There's no question about it at Diamond. He's a multimillionaire. He owns part of the Baltimore Orioles. That stake in the Orioles alone is worth $100 million. He bought it for $5 million. He's a very, very good businessman. Okay. The reason Diamond is a monopoly is partly because major publishers decided to sign exclusive deals with them when there was a shakeup in the 1990s. Marvel Comics bought a distributor called Heroes World that was pretty much just New Jersey, New York, and maybe some Pennsylvania. And then Marvel took that distributor and tried to make it a national distributor and gave it exclusive distribution. Hey, it's Red Gaze. Hey, Red. So, yes. The thing is, though, if there were 5 other distributors, now I'm talking from experience, right? I was in the business when there were more than 10 distributors. I could tell you the names of them before there were these exclusive contracts. And it doesn't matter if there's 10 distributors. Diamond sits there and Diamond receives the books from the publishers based on non-returnable orders that the creators made. Diamond is not ordering books to put into a warehouse to sell at some point in the future. That's not what Diamond Comic Distributors does. Now, there are distributors in other industries that will take inventory. They'll take books, not usually periodicals, not magazines. Magazines are supposed to be sold returnable. That's the whole nature of magazines, because magazines are not supposed to be collectible. Comic books really are supposed to be collectible magazines. They're a weird hybrid of a book and a comic. So, for Diamond to take in these comics, they're not buying them with the idea that they're going to hope that they go up in value and then sell them over time. Diamond is buying them, and they're just a shipping service, really. And they do collections. They just add up orders from retailers, and then they collect those orders. They send them to the publishers. The publishers print to order, sometimes a little extra, and then deliver them, sometimes right from the printer, to comic book stores. So that's what they're doing as a distributor. In other industries for distribution will do things like guarantees, where they might say, hey, look, Adam, we like College of the Dead. We'll distribute that for you to comic book stores. Okay. What deal are you willing to offer? Well, a distributor, like in the music industry, might write a check and say, listen, I'm going to guarantee you this minimum amount of money, and I will get these books out to stores. And I'll make this extra profit if I'm really successful doing it. A distributor might take a percentage of the intellectual property. The distributor would function a lot like they do in other industries, a lot like our publishers almost function when they distribute someone else's idea and they take a percentage. It's totally different than how Diamond works. Good to see you, Toki. So, to say like, well, why aren't there other distributors and we need other distributors? It really wouldn't make any difference in this situation where, a huge percentage of the country is shut down. So here's why. If Diamond decided to stay open, and because Diamond, they did cite health reasons, that they thought it would be dangerous for the employees and the employees' families, and that's true. But if Diamond stayed open and no one got sick, what would have happened? Well, it's very simple. There were guaranteed pre-orders from stores that Diamond would have received all those comics. They would have gotten them on like Monday and Tuesday to then have reshipped and pickups and deliveries for retailers on Wednesdays. Well, again, Diamond is not in the business at all of taking comics, taking books, taking products from manufacturers, and then holding them in their warehouse. They're supposed to be there for like a number of hours, if that at all. In addition, Diamond is supposed to be doing pickups directly from printers. They pick up directly from a company called Brenner Printing in Texas. I just heard they've been printing Marvel's comics, which is shocking, but they do. They pick up from Transcontinental in Canada. So what was Diamond supposed to do if 80% of their stores are closed who ordered this stuff? If there were 5 other comic book distributors, were they supposed to go ahead and pick up stuff from Transcon Printing, from Transcontinental in Canada, or pick up stuff from Brenner in Texas, and exactly do what with it? Exactly do what with it? Yes, stores ordered it, but if the stores are closed, how are they supposed to get the stores to take those comics? And that's just in the first week. So the stores wouldn't take the comics. So maybe they would take the comics and what? Put them in a warehouse somewhere and just kind of hang on to them. And then the stores don't pay for them. And then they're supposed to pay, Marvel and Dynamite and DC and Image and pay for those comics. With what money if they're not getting paid by retail stores because the stores aren't open to accept the product? So if there were 8 other comic distributors or 10 other comic distributors or 500 other comic book distributors, what difference does it make if the stores are closed? As Hillary Clinton would have said, what difference at this point would it make? I don't know. Famous statement. But in any case, it would make no difference. So Diamond had no choice but to refuse to accept new comics, even if some of their mail order customers are open. So what? They're going to pick up their whole order and then take half the comics and hold them for what amount of time? And that's just for the first week. What is Diamond supposed to do for week 2? So let's say they pick up all these books 2 weeks ago. They bring them into their warehouses. Mostly they can't distribute them. They don't even know from day to day which retail stores they could send them to. But basically 50 to 80% of them they have to keep in their warehouse. So now they go bad because they're totally perishable. These are not really collectible magazines. Whatever doesn't sell this week in a comic book store is not going to sell the following week in almost like every case right now. It's horrific. It's horrific. Hey, Ned. How you doing, buddy? Good to see Ned. Ned, definitely please be sure to share the link out so people are aware of it. You're awesome at that. So if Diamond was to have taken this stuff from week 1, about 50 to 80% of it would be sitting around somewhere in a warehouse that they don't even have room for. Again, Diamond exists to bring stuff in. It'd be like your grocery store. They take a delivery from, 5 trucks, from 5 18-wheelers. They put it all on the shelves. If nobody came, all right, fine. Then they're stuck with all this perishable stuff. Then what's supposed to happen in week 2? What's supposed to happen in week 2? Exactly the same thing, except more stores are closed now. Well, where are they supposed to pick up and put all this stuff if they can't reship it out? So having 10 distributors doesn't solve the problem, like not even a little bit. There's no solution with Diamond being able to distribute. Diamond has to be able to physically move everything that they would pick up. And they also have to be able to collect on it financially, because Diamond doesn't sometimes Ethan talks about these numbers and not everybody knows what these numbers are. So if a comic book sells for $3 cover price, or say comic books, $3 cover price is a good number. What a distributor is paying a publisher for that is usually $1.18 or $1.20. And then the distributor is going to collect, after all of their fees for taking, 2,000 comics and then putting them into, 500 different boxes, they're going to collect back from a store like $1.50 or $1.55. So their spread is about 30 cents or maybe 40 cents a comic before expenses. And labor is a real expense. Lights are a real expense. Rent is a real expense. People not being able to pay the bill is a real expense. Damages are a real expense. There are real expenses on top of that. It's a very, very thin margin business for Diamond. They don't make a lot of profit doing it. So Diamond is not in a position, and again, you could have Capital City Distributors, Heroes World, all the old big Second Genesis, Comics Hawaii, all the other big distributors from back in the day. You can have all the distributors in the world. How that's going to make a difference, it's not going to make a difference. What would make a difference with comic book distribution, with comic book stores? What would make a difference would be comic books need to be able to be sold. They need to have a shelf life. When comic books were sold on a non-returnable basis in the first place, comic books were sold on the basis that, all right, look, that you have fans that want to buy this month's issue of Spider-Man. If they try to get the comics on a newsstand, there's no guarantee that the newsstand's going to have them. So a comic book store owner could say to fans, hey, look, if you want the current issue of Spider-Man, come to my store. I get new comics, as soon as they come out from the printer. And, you can get your copy of Spider-Man, no problem. So that's fine, but it doesn't really work if when the new issues of Spider-Man come out, the Spider-Man books are terrible, or people just don't want them. They don't have the same level of interest in them. And the thing is, when comic book stores first opened, the price of a comic was like 60, it was even less, but it was like 60 cents or something like that, 65 cents. So a comic book store was buying those for like 30 cents. They would sell copies. I'm thinking of Alpha Flight #1, like in 1982. They would buy copies of Alpha Flight #1. They would be able to sell them at full cover price. And a lot of us would buy extra copies of Alpha Flight #1. Maybe it's going to go up in value. But whatever copies didn't sell, they could put in a comic bag, put in a back issue bin, and then they would sell in the future. Even if the comic book didn't go up in value a lot, the comic book would at least sell for like $1, $2, $3. When you had a comic book that sold for $1 as a back issue and the store only paid 30 cents for it, that's 3 times the cover price. That's a 300% return for a comic store on a back issue, on something that, didn't sell out initially as a new comic. So they would actually buy stuff for back issues. This is so funny because like people wouldn't even think of doing this now. So now where like you're getting the current issue of Spider-Man or, the new Captain Marvel or whatever stuff that they're pumping out now, or whatever the X-Men are doing, and weird versions of New Warriors. Like if comic book stores aren't buying extra copies for the future because they know people are going to want them, that's when you know something is wrong. So how is a comic book store supposed to buy enough copies that they know they're going to sell and buy extra copies to hold for back issue bins? Something like a #1 Marvel comic after a year is like a $5 back issue, usually from back in the day. It would be unusual that Alpha Flight #1, or even like the later issues, #2, #3, again, they'd be like 60 cents cover price. And then they could go into back issue bins for $1, for $2, for $5. And if something was hot, for $10 or $20. And there would be actual readers that were looking for those issues. It's nothing like that anymore. And as the retail price started to go up on comics, to $1, to $1.50, to as much as they could get for the things, you started to see like the market started to get damaged. It started to get hurt because retail stores were not able to know, like, all right, well, I could buy this book, and then if it, for whatever the prices we got up to, about the early 90s, they're like, $1.50 for a comic, $2 for a comic. That started to get kind of pricey, because at $2, they're paying $1 for every comic book. Yes, they're selling them for $2, but then as back issues, they're only selling them for $1, or they're selling them for $2 if it's not a desirable back issue. It seems like a small thing, but it's really not a small thing. As the retail price went up, they really started to kill the market for those books. This is the thing that can't be fixed at comic stores. Is either they are periodicals at comic book stores, magazines, newspapers, where, okay, this is cool. I got it this Wednesday. I can read it. I'm interested. But if they're not going to hold their value as a collectible item, as something that people are going to go back looking for a year, 2 years, 5 years down the road, you cannot sell comics non-returnable if they're not collectible. That's the whole fundamental issue. I don't know if anybody disagrees with that, but I don't see how a comic book store is. The deal was supposed to be, you buy this comic, you'll sell them right away as a comic store, and there will be value in it because the editorial people are concerned about making great comics. They want the comics to kind of last over time. They're launching a new series. Most new series lasted 100 issues at least. Okay, Dazzler didn't come out with Dazzler #1 even in the 1980s. It was the first comic book store exclusive title. The only title sold to direct market from Marvel was Dazzler, not even on newsstands. But again, even Dazzler, they put the book out and they weren't looking to throw it away right away. So there was interest in Dazzler back issues. So you don't, if you don't have comics that people are going to want to have and hold and own in the future, in any kind of retail store, like all other merchandise, it really has to be returnable. There are some situations in some stores where comics are sold non-returnable, where products are sold non-returnable to stores, but definitely not magazines. They're supposed to be collectible magazines if they're going to be non-returnable, and you also have to leave enough in the price that retail stores can make a profit when they're selling back issues. How are you supposed to take like this month's issue of X-Men and save that at a $4.99 retail or whatever the hell the thing is at, and then resell that in the future for 3 times the cover price? Who's going to pay $15 for that? Retailers are throwing these things out constantly. Sim says the comics are not sold with magazines anymore because it was not profitable anymore since the rise of the LCS, the local comic store, all because they were getting too many returns. Yeah, well, comic books, when they started taking them off magazine shelves because they weren't selling enough, but also because the retail price, it wasn't worth it as a magazine retailer and distributor to deal with them. And this is another problem for really great books like Alternates Comics. They're like $2 or $1.50, $1.99. That's not really enough money to work in the comic book store distribution model when it was still working. Not for Diamond. So Diamond, I'm surprised that they even allowed Alterna to distribute for years. It's just that Alterna was so loved, I'm sure, by retailers and by fans that Diamond was kind of forced to have it to stay relevant. But for Diamond to physically touch a comic and move it somewhere, it's why they've moved more and more towards high price point items, because if they're going to make $2 to touch something versus 15 cents or 20 cents or whatever their margin's supposed to be on a $2 comic book, they're going to do it. Diamond is not set up for low priced comics, and even when things were working back then. So I think it kind of amazes me that Todd McFarlane is talking about, we should have one voice, and comic book publishers should come up with ideas. It's like, well, gee, Todd, like that idea of 10 free digital comics, I don't think that's going to keep people away from playing video games. I don't see it. The only thing that might get someone's interest is, for the love of God, like, put on your thinking cap, do a Spider-Man versus Spawn cover, and then make it look like a #1, and then just start drawing the damn comic and see if you can get Marvel to go along with doing it. I think Marvel might be pushed into allowing something like that, but at least that would get people talking about comics. That's something that would be of some interest, and you guys are focused on comic stores. But the truth is, the comic book stores, it's a terrible business. It's not a good business for people to be in. And until comic book stores, owning a comic book store is a good business, you can't expect comic book stores to thrive. That you can't thrive fundamentally unless it's a good business. It has to be something where it's easy enough for someone to get into that business, it's profitable for that business, and people want to open comic book stores. Even past things being closed down, Who's going to want to open a comic book store under what conditions? Only people that love comics. And, there have to be new comics that are coming out that people want to love, right? So Todd's other solution, let's take a look at his other solution, which is to publish a new comic on Kickstarter, a remastered comic on Kickstarter. I actually haven't really looked at. All right, we got to stop sharing that screen. We got to share a new screen. We will take a look at what the hell Todd McFarlane is doing here. All right. So as we're watching it, it's going to go up. I mean, we started this a little while ago. He's doing, I don't know, $30,000 to $50,000 an hour on this campaign. It's enormous. Anybody who could be talking about doing something is doing something. These backers obviously know who Todd McFarlane is. So originally, I thought this was just going to be for, this is how we're going to save comics. Well, hey, crowdfunding is the thing that is saving comics. There's no question about it. If it wasn't for crowdfunding, all we would have is political comics anymore. I mean, you don't have people focused on making great comics just for the sake of making great comics. That's another thing about the Comicsgate people. We would love to make movies and we want to make toys, and that's all fine. But our focus is obviously the comic books and selling the comic books and making the comic books. We're not making toys. We're not focused on making movies. Ethan Van Sciver will be launching a Cyberfrog toy line this year. So keep an eye out for that as an extra thing, because he's always wanted to make toys. And that character definitely deserves it. But it's not our focus. Comics is our focus. So in 1992, the very first Spawn comic hit shelves, setting sales records for an independent comic. That is true. They sold a lot of copies. In 1995, the first Spawn action figure was released to retail. And, that is true. Todd's figures were innovative. His details were very innovative. People were not making toys the way that Todd McFarlane decided to make toys. And that was something that was great for the comic book industry, and it was great for toys. So in 1995, the first Spawn action figure was released to retail and critical acclaim, helping to usher in a whole new way of giving you much detailed and art to your action figures. Okay, it doesn't sound like correct English, but maybe Ethan could correct that. Right now, I don't know how to correct that. Now, 25 years later, Todd McFarlane is joining forces with Kickstarter to help deliver an updated version of the original 1995 toy and comic release. All right, so the remastered is much bigger and cooler. It's hard to believe that this original one was, not all that detailed, but it was very detailed at the time, and now this new one definitely looks even more detailed. About the figure is going to be 7 inches tall and come with a huge folding cape and weapon. It does look cool. It's not our job to sell Todd McFarlane's toys, and he's obviously doing a damn good job of it on his own. So if you're interested in this, check it out. A lot of people are obviously backing it. And look, it's good to see a very cool crowdfunded toy. I think it'd be a good idea for Todd McFarlane to pay a little more attention to comic stores if they're important to him. And also, there are a lot of creators that are counting on Image. A lot of them are SJWs, so fuck those people. But basically, Image is his thing, so he could support Image and he can make himself a lot of money too. So there are multiple Spawn heads they're doing, a lot of variants. This is a well thought out. Okay, shipping costs are estimated. All backers are responsible for shipping. Shipping costs are estimated. So that's a good way for him to stay out of not charging enough for shipping. He's just kind of demanding that you will have to pay for extra for shipping. He's got his classic Spawn, 2,000 backers for that. 200 backers for modern Spawn. 54 backers for artist proof Spawn. 880. It just goes to show you, whatever you put at the top, which is why for Indiegogo projects, we have to be really careful about our featured items. That is kind of what people look at. So when you're planning a comic book campaign, on a crowdfunding campaign for Comicsgate projects, pay attention to your featured item a lot, because people are really looking at that. Because he's got 2,000 backers there. That's his biggest number of backers. That's the first thing people see. So they're like, all right, I'll back it. Some people want the autographed one for $80, which for an autographed version, that doesn't sound unreasonable at all. Autographed modern Spawn. See, so classic Spawn, that's what people want. The classic, 881 backers signed. What else has he got? Autographed artists. So he's got autographed versions. So a 3-pack Spawn trilogy with 2 new heads. So I guess you've got optional heads, and he's got this complete set, which is 2,859 backers. That's obviously a hit for him. This is a pretty well constructed campaign, I got to say. Good graphics. Obviously, people are excited about it, and people are backing the hell out of it. And even one of you guys in here said you were backing it. So $97 to get one autograph figure. Yeah, I don't know if I would spend 90. I'm not going to spend $97. I've never I thought Spawn was fine. What I don't like is I like to immediately be able to understand what a character is all about. And a lot of independent companies don't do a good job of explaining their concept and their character. Spawn, I've read it before, years ago, and I kind of got the guy was dead and now he's back. But there's more to it. You really have to be able to summarize what your concept is to get people really invested in a character. Obviously, he's doing just fine with Spawn. So yeah, those are not toys. Yeah, they're big collectible statues, really. But call them a toy. Call it a toy. If people want to buy toys, make it a toy. Make it a toy. Call it a toy. Moot Point says, I want a super giant pie-sized salamandroid. Pie-sized is right. Action figure and comic book too. Will Ethan Van Sciver include a comic book with his Cyberfrog toy? I don't know. We're going to have to ask him. I hope he does. Will he out-earn Spawn? It will be something to compete against. So it will be interesting. Maybe yes, maybe no. Cyberfrog is doing pretty damn well. We're already proud of it. It will beat 5,000 backers. It will easily break $500,000. Will it break $1 million over time? I think it will. Blade Devil, we're excited about. Blade Devil, we'd love to see a Blade Devil toy. That would be amazing. That would be absolutely amazing. Unexpected Geek Nemesis, hail back to you. Always great to see you. Really great to see you. I don't know if you guys saw it or not. I was really blown away by this. This is actually creepy and scary. So like, if you're easily influenced, I would say maybe look away. I'm going to show you guys. This is freaking amazing. I got this trailer that somebody made for me on College of the Dead, and I did upload it to the channel. Some of you guys may have seen it already, but I want to share it to you because it's just really so freaking impressive. And we didn't collaborate at all on this. He just kind of completely took it upon himself to make this amazing trailer. And this is my video from earlier, this absolutely terrifying fan trailer for College of the Dead. Check this out. This guy is amazing. It's by Bronson Gorilla, which is his real name. You can find him on Twitter. You can also contact me if you can't find his Twitter for some reason. I don't know if he does trailers for people. I always use Ted Zagaro for my official trailers, but I really like this trailer. So definitely let me know if you can't hear it, but I'm going to play this thing for you guys. Check us out. It's 1 minute, 12 seconds. It's a totally freaky horror trailer. Oh yeah, yeah. It's like Thriller Chiller. Yeah, man, that used to freak me out too. That what the hell did they call it? I don't know what. Wait, will you stop? How dare you? How dare you? Um, yeah, there was like a Chiller Theater or whatever the hell that was. That was completely freaky from was it the 80s? I guess it was like the 1980s or something. Scary as hell, just really scary. Um, oh, there you go. Hatch, yeah, Hatch. I appreciate that. I'll show your channel on streams. I'm a mod on to see if I can buff those numbers. Definitely, thank you guys. It's AdamPostSpeaks.com. It'll redirect right to the channel where people can sign up. That's a huge help. We just want to, if I can get to 1,000 subs, I can do a lot more streaming, and I'm going to get nuts and do other cool stuff with the channel, just as long as I can start to really build it up. And while we're at it, we're going to check out. All right, and now I played that trailer. I got to play Ted's trailer because I love that. I absolutely love the College of the Dead regular trailer. We're going to play that. Ted is my main man. Oh, I love it. I really love it. Yeah, it was amazing. I worked with Ted on that, but a lot of that, guys, was actually a surprise for me. Ted was just like, he just killed it. He just did an amazing, amazing job on that trailer. Yeah, College of the Dead has done really, really well. You know, I'm a big horror fan. Horror is not my only thing. This is just like if I get an idea that I get passionate about, and I want to do a zombie project, like I'm going to do a zombie project. That's the way it is. My next project, Ted is doing. I can't show it to you now, but Ted is doing the final touches on the Mermaids trailer, and no one has seen that, and it's also like it's so cool. The Mermaids is a series I'm going to do. We have the first 48-page graphic novel completely done, and it's full color. It's amazing. The writing is great. It's Game of Thrones with mermaids. It's going to be really, really cool. I'm so excited too, guys, about with the prequel comic and Arm and a Leg. Like a lot of people are buying the prequel comics. A lot of people haven't seen it before. And they haven't seen College of the Dead. And this is another thing in comics. It's like, this is why I always tell people, like, do sequels, man. Do sequels, because if you do sequels, you can sell your first book, and then you can kind of sell the next book. You know, if you don't do a sequel, you know, if I was to do College of the Dead and then I just do the Mermaids, and I'm not thinking about doing College of the Dead too, you know, the Mermaids, yes, it's related to me, whatever, but it's not part of the College of the Dead series. So we've done pretty well, you know, numbers wise. We're like 500% of where we were 5 times. You know, we were at like $3,000 when we were at 30 days with the first campaign, and now Comicsgate has made this, you know, 16,000 5 times. It's amazing. Partly it's because I delivered the first one, but another thing, it's just like the sequel is just so freaking powerful to get the next book out. And College of the Dead 3, you know, as long as we do a good job delivering College of the Dead book 2 this graduation day, I would assume College of the Dead 3 is going to do better. They say in comics, and tell me if you guys have heard this before, you do the first book, you sell a certain amount, and then you sell book number 2, and you're supposed to sell less. Well, no, not if people have seen book 1 and they like book 1. That's how you kind of know that you have a hit, is that if book 2 does better than book 1, by definition, you have a hit. Moot Point is throwing out the EVS reminder of like, hey, remember to overprint the first book. And that is good advice. Ethan's been talking about that a lot lately. Now, I've published 1,000 comics, so I know a little bit about overprinting. I wind up with warehouses of extra books sometimes when I start doing this thing. However, it's a great reminder. And I was looking at printing numbers the other day. Amen is right, brother. I was looking at printing numbers the other day, and when you're doing like a 48-page color comic book, and I was looking at Mixam's numbers, but a lot of them are consistent from printer to printer. And the Mixam numbers are like, to print 100 copies of a 48-page full color comic is like $4.50 per comic. It's not bad, you know. But when you get to like 400 copies, then it goes down to around like $4 per comic. Okay, that's cheaper. It kind of makes sense, but it's not like free. But if you print another 100 after that, the extra 100 copies at like the 400 quantity is as low as like, it's like $1.16 per copy. So that's like, whoa, that's incredibly cheap. That's a lot less money. What are you doing, Commendatore? Adam Post is my number one fan. I appreciate him so much. That's he does very good Arnold Schwarzenegger typing, and then I try to match him on the verbal. Yeah, Methwin, that was ridiculous. We'll talk about that too. But yeah, so keep this in mind, guys. Is if you wind up printing an extra 100 copies, and it's like a little more than $1 a copy from 400 copies, that's significant. Like, that's good. That's very good, especially if you're going to do a sequel soon. So if we do extra copies when we print College of the Dead Book 2, Graduation Day, those extra copies that we're paying like, not that much money for, we can sell as back issues in the future. And eventually we'll run out and we'll have to do another printing. Yeah, Hatch is a little, yes. The hell with method for throwing us under the bus for early sales on College of the Dead 2. It slipped up by because Adam wasn't shilling it. And then 2 days it was funded. Yeah, when you launch a campaign, you have your platform and you have opportunities to go on other people's platforms. Your platform is your thing, like your character. That's what you own. Your platform is your social media, your Twitter, your Facebook. Your platform also includes any email lists of people who signed up that were interested in buying your book. That's part of your platform. Your YouTube channel is part of your platform. Now, I still have yet to get 1,000 subs. Thank you. That's right. That's right. Commander Tornator. Yeah, he's great. But your platform includes your YouTube channel. Your YouTube channel is really important because as much time as you can invest in your YouTube channel is as much as you can utilize your platform. I am trying to make as much time as I can to live stream now because I want to get closer to fans. I want more people to get to see what I'm doing. I want to comment more on the industry. I want people to kind of understand what I know about and what I have to offer to Comicsgate. And the only way to do that is by having more and more live streams. You can have videos and, you can get people with videos, but you can also get people's interest and show people what you have to offer and then really entertain people with live streams like you can't with any other way. But the whole point is, when I launched my campaign, I did it with my platform. I did send Ethan an email and let him know, hey, if you had time available, I'm planning on launching on this day. Ethan gets 1,000 emails a day. My platform is not Ethan's platform and vice versa. Well, of course, I'd support Ethan if he wanted me to, but Ethan has his own major platform that he's been working on for years. So he's invited me on. He's been so generous with his time and with his platform, and I appreciate it. But I don't plan a book or a project where I'm going to launch on someone else's channel specifically. You have to launch really on your channel. And Sweetcast set a great example of this. Like, he launches on his own channel. A lot of people, like, you want to launch on your own platform, and then if other people have time or they see that your campaign's coming up and they offer, hey, why don't you launch on my platform? That's great. A lot of people have been really successful recently launching on like 5 people's YouTube channels, like in one day. Liam Gray did that with Xenotype. It worked very well for him. Um, Drew did that with Captain Love. A few guys have done that with a few projects. I'm not remembering all of them. I kind of did with mine as well. But my first thing was my channel, the people that I've built up, over time and through my social media and my email list that I collected. And that's where you want your head to be at, is building your platform, developing your platform. But definitely printing extra copies is a really, really good idea. Vinny, yeah, Adam Post, you, Vinny, EVS, and Frega, not Fraga, Frega, doing Black Flaga, have some insane mainstream stories. Yeah, we do. Yeah, Vinny's stories are really. Vinny takes you right back to where he was at the time. Like, you feel like you're standing right next to him, when he's mad and he's like ready to go kick somebody's butt for something terrible that they did. I love Vinny's stories. Yeah, people can be very crazy, and it's not just in comics, but comics is a pretty wacky business. Hail Magic Hop is right. Magic Hop, hardworking guys. They they've been working on their own platform. They were never heavily featured on any channels, and I'm sure though next time around there's going to be more promotion of everything that Zaid Comics does, and that's the whole thing too, is uh, getting yourself out there on your first project and not expecting your first project to be some incredible success. I was on a really great small channel for White Cat Comics. Those are the guys that do Grim Reaper the other day. And I really like those guys a lot, that couple, because they focused on their first book. They only did like just under $1,800 on their first comic, but they got the comic done. They delivered on time. They even had a personal tragedy. There was a fire at their home. They still delivered their book. And then they came around for book number 2. And now it's done more than twice what they did on their first campaign. And they are selling copies of their first book on their second one. So should they have done a sequel? Of course they should do a sequel. And are they thankful and appreciate? They appreciate every sale they get. They appreciate all their customers. They appreciate all the channels they get to go on. And they invite people on their channels to help promote. That's what building a network is really all about. You build your platform and you give an opportunity to endorse other creators and support other creators. And then they do the same for you. And then the more you do it, you're going to get noticed by people. We notice people all the time, and we talk about, hey, this guy's doing this or that guy's doing that. And, occasionally, whoever you really respect in Comicsgate, you occasionally will get direct advice from them. And you want to take that advice serious. You want to take that advice, like, if Ethan takes the time to tell you, make sure you overprint your comics, he's not kidding. He's telling you that's going to make you successful. Look at your expenses, look at your numbers, do like I did, figure out the price break where it's like, all right, if I'm going to at least do 400, it's crazy to not do another couple of hundred, if not, an extra 1,000 even, if you're going to get good pricing on it. That's why if you go on mixam.com, you can check out their price schedule and you'll see, like, you can pick whatever quantity you want. You can figure out what the heck it's going to cost. RGE is in swinging distance of Cash Grab with Blade Devil. Yeah. Now RGE is a guy, he spent like 7 years doing YouTube. He's like live streaming constantly and making really cool videos constantly. He knows exactly what his audience likes. He's passionate about what he likes. And yeah, it's taken time and he's built it up. I'm still not at 1,000 subs. I haven't really put the time into it that a lot of people have. You take somebody like Tug and Yellow Flash, and they built their channels up from nothing. Yellow Flash, I think, is at 70,000 subs now. Tug is at 70,000. Yellow Flash is at more than 100,000, and it's possible to do. And if you're really curious, like, well, how do you build big channels like that? Well, you could actually message them on Twitter and ask them what they did. Tug has given us advice before publicly about building channels. He's very generous with that advice. And so anything you want to do, like, just, you can't snap your fingers and have it. That's for like whatever, genies and stuff. But you could do the work and you could find out. Hatch is hailing something. Let's see what he says. Every time EVS, John, Malin, Zach, and Vinny talk, listen. But what about me? I listen to all those guys myself. Yes, listen to them. Um, they really do give great advice. They all give great advice. And you know what? Nothing. Let's see. Donuts one. I'm going to regret answering this. I think. Oh, I like your avatar. Damn. Damn. All right, Mr. Post. How old are you? And do you remember the first moving pictures? Um, how old am I? And do I remember the first moving pictures? Well, I am 50, and the first moving pictures, they weren't out yet. So no, man. I mean, that was a little bit before my time. It was a little bit before my time. Shimmer wants to know, what was the Civil War like? Well, that is a good question. I did go through the Civil War. Of course, I'm in the North, so of course we fucking won. Um, when we had to set things straight down south, because you know how they are in Florida, it wasn't easy. I mean, comics didn't come out once a week; they came out once a month. I know it's hard to believe. And crowdfunding, they didn't even have crowdfunding yet. Also, there was dial-up internet during the Civil War. So back then. Oh no, Hatch, don't. Only kidding, buddy. Don't worry about it. But anyway, yeah, the Civil War, man. That was really something. That was really something. I'm very young, 50. Oh, thank you very much. Well, I still like pictures of girls with no shirts on, like your avatar. David called talkies back then. Post. Stop with the history references. The Northern aggression. He's from the South. That's what they called the Civil War in the South, I think. Shimmer, that really was pretty effing funny. Am I cool enough at this that I will get teased now? I'm starting to get teased for my weaknesses. I love it. Um, I thought Marvel Civil War. You know what's so funny is, like, of course, there's no Marvel Civil War without Jim Shooter's Secret War. The guy hardly gets credit. I know a secret about that, which I will not say. But that said, Marvel did not appreciate Shooter enough for Civil War. The South will rise again. Hashtag War of Northern Aggression. It is possible that the South will rise again, but they took a flag away. When they took away the Dixie flag, you're not really allowed to have Dixie flags. I don't know. I don't know if the South will rise again. I don't know if comic shops will open again. Adam Pars is so old. His social security number is like 4. But of course, to not say the zeros is a wasted opportunity. 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 4. That's true. There were 3 guys ahead of me. They're all dead now. So basically, I'm number 1. 8-track. Let me see. That one looked funny. 8-track or vinyl? I don't know. 8-track. 8-track wasn't as cool as vinyl. It's got a vinyl all the way. Vinyl all the way. Adam Post, did you ever get in trouble over those biography comics you did? Any stories from those days? Well, it depends what you mean by trouble. If you mean okay, so what Stupendous is talking about was that back in my day, we crowdfunded with a tin cup. It's absolutely right. Did we get in trouble with biography comics? So we did biography comics on famous people. And I didn't invent the idea of doing biography comics. Biography comics started a long time ago. Like, there's even a Dwight Eisenhower biography comic I have from like the 1950s. Not that I bought when I was a kid. It's an old comic that, I don't know, somebody sent me or something like that. So they've been biography comics for a long time. Rock and roll comics, though, came out from Revolutionary Comics. They were rock and roll biography comics. I was not associated with that company. They were out of the West Coast, published by this guy, Todd Lauren. And he did biography comics on Guns N' Roses. And my friend Rob Conti wrote Kiss, their biography of the Kiss comic. And then Rob later went to go work for the Kiss guys, doing some promotional stuff and other cool stuff. But anyway, so they did rock and roll comics. They're pretty successful. So I was like, all right, I'll do biography comics. I'll do comics on famous people instead of doing comics on rock and roll people. We stayed the hell away from it. So we started publishing them, and we found that they did pretty okay. If we did signed versions, like signed by the artist, those did really well, and those made money too. And then sometimes we would do trading card editions. So What happened with those biography comics were, because they were biographies, they weren't licensed by famous people. We didn't go and try to get permission. But when we were doing things like Star Trek, occasionally we would get contacted by the celebrities. So we got contacted by who the hell contacted us? Walter Koenig, and he helped write his biography with our comics writer at the time. That was pretty cool. Kim Basinger, who was a hottie back in the day, we did a biography on her because of Batman. Uh, we did it like in the early 1990s, and she found it and she liked our biography comic, and she wrote us a really nice letter, and thanked us for making it and gave us a publicity photo. And who else sent us? What the hell is his name? The guy who played McCoy. I can't even remember his name. How terrible. We made money off him. I can't even remember his name right now. I can't remember his name right now. He sent us a nice still as well, the guy who played McCoy. But not everybody was happy about our biography comics. Guess who? Kirk, what was his name? Oh, DeForest Kelly. Nichelle Nichols. She contacted us too. Nichelle Nichols contacted us. We had some people like somebody bought the 90210 guy, just Jason Bateman, whoever the hell that wasn't Jason Bateman. All right, that was DeForest Kelly. Thanks, Kirk. So yeah, a few of them. Nichelle Nichols contacted us. I guess she liked the comic as well, but we got in some trouble. Paramount, for our use of the Star Trek symbols in the comics that we did a series called Original Crew. Paramount did send us a letter saying cease and desist from using Paramount logos. So we were like, well, so because we did use them pretty liberally. We kind of had a lot of Star Trek logos and stuff and Star Trek costumes in the Star Trek biography comics that we did. They kind of had a point. They had a point of like, listen, you want to tell a life story about William Shatner, do it, but go easy a little bit on using Star Trek logos and stuff. So we promptly took the letter and threw it away, which is what you should do with most cease and desist letters. That's my legal advice. Get a lawyer though. If you do get a cease and desist letter, you can get like for $100, you can get some lawyer to give you advice, and he'll tell you like probably throw away your cease and desist letters, but stop it. That's something that when someone owns intellectual property, they're supposed to send a cease and desist letter to you to kind of put you on notice to say, hey, listen, will you stop it with stealing my property? And if you don't stop it, that's when they have cause to file a lawsuit against you. So they're really supposed to give you a notice first. That's their official legal warning. So you do want to respect that those letters usually and not continue to violate their intellectual property. We also got sued though by Joe Montana from some ambulance chasing idiot lawyer. We did a biography comic on Joe Montana. His lawyer tried to sue us, and because he tried to sue us, he went that far. There may have been a lawsuit somewhere on it, and I don't even remember what the details were, but we did have a lawyer basically tell him, listen, there's no big profit for you. You're not going to make any money off of this. So he dropped out. Brian Austin Green. There was one of the guys from Beverly Hills 90210, because we did a biography on 90210, and it was actually a pretty cool cover. I think it was by Greg Theakston. I don't really recall, but he bought the original cover from the artist. That was kind of cool. Jason Priestley may have been the guy who bought it. I don't know who the hell bought it, but it was a nice painting. It really was. I hope he got paid a lot of money for it. What was really funny? So of all the famous people that we did biography comics on, guess who was the most hysterical and pissed off about it? It was Whoopi Goldberg, because the Star Trek comics always made money. Star Trek always. I did not help build the pyramids. I'm not that old. I did help build the city on rock and roll, but I did not help build the pyramids. I am not. Come on, Chimera. I can't be. Don Swan said Adam set up some patsy to take the fall for the Joe Montana incident. It wasn't even necessary. I would have if necessary. I would have changed identity. In fact, who even knows who I am? But yes, we would have definitely used some patsy to set him up to get away from Joe. The Joe Montana attorney wasn't that tough. He was coming at this is the other thing with attorneys, guys, to watch out for. If you get a letter from an attorney and they're trying to talk all tough, if they're not in the same state as you, they're not that serious yet because they need to sue you in your local court where you are, unless they can prove, like this going on with the Richard Meyer Mark Wade lawsuit, unless they can prove that you have a substantial business presence in another state. So you get to dispute, you'd be able to dispute jurisdiction wherever they can sue you. Again, this is my legal advice, but it's also from experience of just having been in business when lawyers try to start shit, because there's a lot of shady lawyers out there. Of course, I would never do anything wrong, but really they have to be in the same state that you're located in to really start something. So most legal letters, and this is my legal advice, can be thrown away, but just don't do a lot of shady stuff. Keep it like very occasional and you won't get in trouble. Exactly. John, thank you. John was there with me. John knows that I could not help build the pyramids because I was busy helping constructing Stonehenge. I was very busy with Stonehenge. I did a biography comic on, did you know this? Commenda Donator. I did a biography comic on Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it did pretty well. He didn't write me a letter. He didn't appreciate it. So I'm going to take him down one of these days. If you do a biography comic book again, I can think of a super action macho movie film star from the past for decades. That would be a good subject. I already did one. I'm not doing another Arnold Schwarzenegger biography comic, but Google personality comics Arnold and spell Schwarzenegger any way you want to. I did something better, and Kirk knows what it is, than an Arnold Schwarzenegger biography comic. I'm going to look it up while we're talking. Who cares about Todd McFarlane and Spawn? He's rich enough. Do a sport. Kirk, what do you think of my idea? If Todd McFarlane wants to create some excitement for comic book stores, let him make his own cover of Spider-Man versus Spawn and mock that up as a comic cover and push that as a crossover. Will that create excitement? He could at least sell the original for $100,000 and donate that to comic stores. That's a good idea. He's talking about there's no leadership. Like, come on, Todd. You could kind of come up with your own idea. This may need to be reprinted. The chat's going to have to tell me. Kirk, send me the original scan for this when you get a chance. You know what I'm talking about. Only Kirk knows, but you will also soon know. All right. Very serious. This is a real project. It's a real project. It needs to be shared. Open link in new window. All right. Well, I don't even like how it looks. All right. We're just going to share this. Never mind College of the Dead. If you back College of the Dead, you did a smart thing. But this is going to blow College of the Dead away when I get to reprint this book. I can almost guarantee it. Legal advice. Edgar Tarley says legal advice and money advice from Adam Post is almost 100% accurate. You know what? That's a generous statement. Actually, I really don't talk about stuff unless I feel confident that I am giving you solid advice. So I'm not trying to F all of you over. Maybe Punish Berserker and Donut Swan I wouldn't mind effing over a few times. I actually wouldn't mind effing over Donut Swan's Icon Girl. That one looks like all right. But yeah, the legal advice and yeah, Xenotype, exactly. The legal advice and the business advice, it's just from experience. Don't, in business and legal and even personal, you never have to suffer through things yourself. Go to a friend or someone else you respect and ask, say, hey, have you ever been through this situation before? We're there to help each other, right? So if I know about something, if I've dealt with it before, I'll tell you. And why wouldn't I? So ask somebody. So this is Big Bird versus Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't know if you can see it on your screen or not because it's small. I'm having a little bit of difficulty getting a full screen version of this. But yes, I did publish a 2-issue limited series as a spoof of Big Bird versus Arnold Schwarzenegger. Trying to find better link for this. Not having an incredible amount of luck with it. Probably see this better than you can see that. So there's actually 2 issues. And my friend Kirk Lindo did draw this cover. And the first one, there's a wraparound for it. And I know at least we could get the comment who won. That's a damn good question. You think I read these things? I just published them. I don't know. I don't know who won it. No, if you want to know who won, you've got to get the book. That's your wife? All right. All right. That's there you go. That's the most handsome, most talented honor could take him. No, they actually had a pretty big battle. What's funny is this predated all of the, if you know of Peter Griffin fighting that giant chicken. It's actually very similar to what we did years before with Big Bird versus Arnold Schwarzenegger. But you'll see because you'll back it when it comes out. Is this the book that everybody wants? Should we reprint this? It's 24 pages for each book, so it'd be a 48-page wraparound. It probably should be color. Color, Kirk, you got to send it. Yeah, Kirk's art is actually excellent for this. And of course, we'll have Farrah color it again under Kirk's direction, so it'll look amazing. A biography comic on Moses. We did a biography comic on Jesus. My God, we did a lot of stuff. We really did a lot of stuff. When Kirk and I were running the studio, I would go into Kirk. I'd be like, hey, let's do a comic. Soof, Family Guy, get a California lawyer so they know you're serious. Exactly, Donut Swan. That's how the game. No, we didn't get sued for the Big Bird because this is a clear parody. And we misspelled, like everybody does. We just misspelled Big Bird Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know what? If I could get maybe I could do this with Cecil, Green Cecil. I like you, Green Cecil. But maybe I can get Cecil involved in this. 10 to 20 bucks on eBay right now. Well, don't waste your money on eBay. No, it is pretty good. I do have scans of all of this, and I own the rights to all the material. So yes, we could definitely do it again. Bears, you're telling too many secrets now. Bears is always up to some trouble. G.I. Jackrabbits is in the works. G.I. Jackrabbits is, we just completed the script, and we should be starting the pencils and inks next week for that. And I'm planning on launching G.I. Jackrabbits in August. That's going to be an amazing book. I'm working with some really great creative teams. We're producing some really, really good comics and just the best stuff we ever produced. I'm really super excited about that. As the expression goes, I don't know what you guys think of Todd. Oh my God, this is terrible. Well, not really, but sort of ridiculous. I just came across this article in Bleeding Cool. Check this out. Mark, you're going to be shocked. Milo Manara draws women very differently in recent weeks. Milo Manara is an Italian comic book artist and illustrator who does amazing, really sexy, beautiful women. And apparently now he's just drawing regular women that are suffering over the outbreak. But who? All right. So the problem with this, it's nice to, yeah, this is the one. This gives Donut Swan some ideas, I'm sure. I mean, at least she seems like she would be quiet, which is good. Like, shh, no talking right now. But okay, there's women cleaning stuff up that you like, keeping the place clean. But Milo Manara is like usually doing like beautiful, sexy women. This is not a much of an escape from the everyday. This is very dangerous that you'd have a girl with long hair out like this handling patients in an ambulance. I can't imagine they let their hair be exposed like this. She's going to wind up getting stuff all over her hair and making people sick wherever she goes. This girl is dressed better. But when you see Milo Manara, you don't need this for Milo Manara. She's cleaning up after dogs. Okay. We should have sexy girls wearing these masks. That's what we should be focused on. People need some escapism. You know, not everything has to be about like reflecting what they see outside right now. Oh, it's better than Arnold. Yeah, that's a reasonable thing to do. Kirk, good seeing you. Thanks for joining in, brother. They look okay. They really don't look that's hot. I mean, they're pretty. I guess they're pretty, but I want to see something else from Milo Manara. I don't need Milo Manara for this. This is like, how to properly put on a mask kind of illustration. This is not what Milo does for people. Well, I mean, artists should contribute any way they want to contribute. It's great for artists to contribute, but he could have done some sexy and fun stuff, because we don't need to contribute to any kind of fear or negative tones right now. Everyone is taking things seriously. Everyone is appreciating everybody who's working very hard, and putting themselves at risk. This one image would have been enough. This is where he should have stopped. It's enough. Yep. She's standing up and she's fighting this virus. That's terrific. But we don't need more than that. We really actually don't. Not from Milo Manara. There's plenty other stuff we could get from other people. I don't know if you guys heard this or not, but I'm surprised this hasn't really gotten around that much. DC Comics putting Black Label and Generation 5 titles on pause. So this is a whole pencils down thing going on. They still look hot. This is a whole strong. Exactly. This is a whole. Yeah. Hopefully Milo will bounce back. Otherwise, I'll just do some sexy pinup book with girls wearing masks. I think I'm going to have to do that. Girlswithmasks.com. Somebody check it out. See if it's available. Yeah. Black Label on pause. Uh-oh. Black Label. Was that Sean Gordon Murphy's thing? I don't know. Diamond Comic Distributors note last week about not paying publishers caused a lot of concern in the comic book industry. Well, why wouldn't it? This is another thing people didn't get about Diamond not paying their publishers. They're not paying them for books. It's not like they're not paying them for April's comics. It's that they're not paying them for March and February's comics that were already delivered to stores. So does it matter if Diamond is not taking this week's comics and paying for them? Yeah, it matters, because first of all, it's a big deal for Diamond to say, listen, for all you publishers and all you guys making all your product, by the way, we don't want that product, so we're going to stop receiving your new product. That's one thing. And that's a big problem, because what the hell am I supposed to do if I had printed 18,000 copies of College of the Dead Graduation Day, a book you should back? If I stopped printing if I printed those books and I plan to distribute them to Diamond next week because I had non-returnable orders, well, what the hell do they want me to do with those books now? And how am I going to pay the printer? It's not good. Even my customers that wanted the book, now they can't get them. That's a big problem. But that's not what this was. This was worse than that, because Diamond has mostly been paid by all their customers for all the comics that the publishers delivered to Diamond for their customers. So this is like saying, well, you worked for the last month for me. Oh, well, I can't pay you for new work in this new month. All right, so I have to go find new work. What about the work I already did last month that you used? Well, you got to pay for that. Well, Diamond was saying, well, no, they're not going to pay for stuff they already received. That's a very big deal. That's Diamond's not bankrupt, but that's what companies do. It's that kind of bankruptcy. Are the art books the same format? I'm assuming you're asking about College of the Dead. This is the art book format for College of the Dead Book 1. Solo. Bing, bang, boom. It's 8.5 by 8.5. Just the art with no lettering on it. I love the art. I love how it came in. And that's why we made these art books. It's exactly the same format. It's exactly the same as this. It's 8.5 by 8.5, 260 pages, John. And they're also going to ship in June. They're all completely done. They're ready to go. We're just getting the files ready for test printing. So yeah, it's exactly the same format. Add to stream. Thanks, John. Yeah, I love the format. I really love the format. Wenger is doing something similar now. I'm really glad he is. Steal my formats if they work, guys. If you're publishing and you're looking for ideas, the art is paid for. We're not going to sell a ton of art books, but for the people that want them, we'll make some extra money on it. It helps pay the bills, and it's a beautiful format. Yeah, Eric, definitely consider it. And you can see more of the inside of the art book in the College of the Dead listing for the current book. Just go to collegeofthedead.com or any of the links, and you'll see right in there, what the inside pages look like for the art book, also for the ash cans that are also the same format, full script and letters. But as a publisher, I published with Diamond, like stuff I sold Diamond for 30 years. They always paid for immediately or even in advance. So to hear that Diamond wasn't going to be paying publishers for comics that were already delivered, that's insane. That's complete craziness. And a question would be like, well, hold on a second. If Diamond collected the money from stores for comics that they sold in March, why, even though there's stores are closed now, didn't they already pay for those? Because most of the comic stores pay on delivery. And the answer is, well, not completely, but mostly yes. Just something happened to that money. I don't know where it is, and I don't know what's going on. But it's not my business to know. I do trust Steve Jeppe. He's not running away with people's money or anything. It's just, it's weird that they don't have the money. So then, okay. So after that announcement, publishers asked their creators to cease working on certain comic books right now. Now, Bleeding Cool is an SJW publication, meaning that they support all of these creators that attack Comicsgate, and they're political comics people. They want to change what comics are, and not for the better. So when he says that they're going to cease working on certain comic books right now, to be more accurate, what he'd be saying is, I know of some creators that you would be shocked if you knew their names, who I've been told privately by them, like, yeah, I have nothing to do right now. DC just stopped me from working. Big name people, they sell books. There's almost no reason to not just keep those guys working. But yeah, the big companies are real freaked out about it. So Diamond announced that they'd not shuttered their doors. They just shuttered their doors to new products. The best thing to just say is they announced that they refused to receive new products, even products that were in transit to Diamond, because they had no place to put them, really. But the announcement that payment for received product would cease is taken much more seriously by publishers. There is one user description to them that Diamond was holding their comic books hostage. Now DC creators have been directly affected. That's a stupid thing to say. Diamond wasn't holding comics hostage. What they were saying was they don't got the money that they're supposed to have. And the reason they don't have the money was because new money didn't come in. In a Ponzi scheme, a Ponzi scheme is new money in, and then people pay money out as new money comes in, whatever. This isn't a Ponzi scheme. This is something where, where there's no legitimate product or anything like that. This is something where businesses use as working capital the money that it takes to operate the business, money that they get paid in advance to operate the whole business, and then they get the next money in to pay the old bills. It's called robbing Peter to pay Paul, but it's actually very typical, especially in all normal business, for business to use money that they get paid today, and then they pay the bill in 30 days and things like that. The thing is, Diamond's never mishandled that money. Like, the money has always been there. And this isn't necessarily mishandling it. But just something is funny with all this. So Diamond ultimately announced what they were going to do was start paying 25% of the money they owe over the next few weeks for old bills and new bills that are actually due right now for delivered product, and that the balance would be paid in the future over 13 weeks. That's 75% that's remaining. How that's all scheduled and structured, and I really don't know. But it was definitely a shock to comic book publishers and people selling to Diamond to find out, we're not going to get paid right now for stuff that we thought we were going to get paid for. On top of the shock of, if they're comic book publishers, what the hell are they supposed to do with all the comics that they've been making that they were about to deliver? Some of them some of them definitely already printed. Okay. So publishers are asking creators to stop work on titles. Doesn't mean their comics were canceled. Well, actually, it does. It means that the comics are suspended, and there's a 95% chance that those comics will be canceled. They may be published again sometime in the future. But as far as the comics that were pencils down, the pencils down comics are canceled. They're not getting published for at least 6 months, at least. So to get taken off of the schedule means it's canceled. To put it back on the schedule means that it's been restarted. So like when sometimes TV shows get canceled, it's like, hey, it's not coming back after this season. That's the status of comics that are on pause right now. So I don't know if Rich Johnson just doesn't understand publishing, or if he just wants it to make it look less severe, like maybe Comicsgate isn't winning and these companies aren't all canceling their titles. They're all canceled. Stopping work means canceled in publishing. The demands were most likely intended to be taken as pauses, recognizing the new reality. Yes, recognize the new reality, mother effer. Your comics are canceled. You made a mistake investing your future with mainstream comics, if that's what you did. Be like Todd McFarlane. Do a crowdfunding, make millions. Why not? With printing and distribution on hold, schedules were out of the window, and there were only so many books that publishers, back when they invented printing, when I was a teenager, because before that we had to write everything by hand. When they invented printing, the printing press, it was a big deal. And we knew that if someone would say stop the presses, that meant that issue was canceled. A lot of you guys probably didn't know I was that old, but I am that old. Hey, it's Guy from Red Bank. What's up, Guy from Red Bank? McFarlane, is that a joint venture with Kickstarter? Based on the way the campaign's worded, it sounds like Kickstarter is getting more than usual, 7%. I didn't read that. I haven't heard anything about that. I don't think it's necessary for them to do that. I'd be surprised. But I don't know if Kickstarter is partnering with people or if they reached out to him to do it. I haven't really read a lot of the articles. I think it would have been mentioned in some of the business articles because partly those kinds of partnerships, the reason for doing those partnerships is to test it, to see if they want to do more of that. So I think you'd see McFarlane and Kickstarter openly talking about it being a partnership, most likely. Just as a business move, it could be a great opportunity. But if they wouldn't be doing it that way, I don't think. If it was, they would mention it casually. Adam's first job in publishing was hand transcribing copies of the Torah. That's actually true. My first publishing job, I was working on the Torah, and I had to hand translate it because we didn't have printing presses back then. And then you have to scroll them up. But we had people that would scroll them up. I'm only going to spend my time doing what I'm great at, and that's transcribing from the Torah. Dale, who could be Deadwood Dale in disguise. You never know with Deadwood Dale. Adam was Gutenberg's apprentice. Absolutely. He taught me how to publish and print. I don't know how to pronounce that last word. I've seen it before, but Post used to have to say stop papyrus. It's probably something to do with parchment or something like that. Fudge the mainstream from Guy from Red Bank. Very true. Green Cecil would say no. He thinks it's just business wording. I like that. Thank you, Green Cecil, for that contribution. We already know about me. Quills down. Quills down. No more Torah. That was a big scare back when the first Torah came out. It was quills down, and I had to stop transcribing. And we knew that was a cancellation. It wasn't just a pause. It was a translation. And then we got started again. Not everyone is Todd McFarlane. He's a bit of a weirdo. He's a bit. I mean, he's very successful. And that's good for him. But he looks a little bit like an insect man to me. And he should be supporting Comicsgate. So he's what was. We are what are, and is. We're where it's at. Just ask that guy who talks like, oh, it is the real Deadwood Dale. There's the real Deadwood Dale. Everyone, I'm so happy people are promoting Deadwood Dale and his channel. He's funny as hell. He adds a lot of flavor and certain je ne sais quoi, shall we say, to Comicsgate. So be sure to sub his channel. If any of the mods have his channel in there, that would be great. Post studied under Gutenberg. We already covered that. We covered that. Just ask the guy from Red Bank. He's going to tell you about all of that. You wish CG could save G.I. Joe, Transformers, and the Ninja Turtles. Well, what's wrong with you, Hatch? Somebody go find Hatch and straighten him out. G.I. Jackrabbits is the Ninja Turtles meets G.I. Joe. I'm the passionate creator that came up with that in the first place. You will see You will hanker no longer for the G.I. Joe or for Ninja Turtles. We may take Ninja Turtles from IDW, by the way, CG. But you will hanker for them no longer when you see G.I. Joe's improvement, G.I. Jackrabbits. That's where it's at. Everybody sue Deadwood Dale. No, I mean sub to Deadwood Dale, but you might want to sue him as well because it seems like it's appropriate. Hail, guy from Red Bank. Hail Deadwood Dale, Mortal Kumquat. Mortal Kumquat is right. Boy, that guy steals kumquats. So back to this crazy story with Diamond and DC Comics messing up your comic book industry. All right, so schedules were out the window. Look, if you're in publishing and schedules out the window, that's canceled. Okay. By the way, all these major companies, they have more than enough money. If they had any confidence in their ability to produce great products, they would continue to have the artists working. If there was a cash flow problem, and I gave other advice to independent creators, I told independent creators, if you haven't gotten instructions for pencils down yet, well, Ethan gave great advice for that. Ethan said, hey, if you're working for Marvel or DC and they haven't stopped you yet, put your work in and get your vouchers in. It doesn't matter what the pages look like. They will pay on those vouchers. Then DC did a pencils down thing. And if a publisher hasn't told a creator pencils down and they're in the mainstream and they're selling to comic book stores, not Comicsgate guys, but if they're selling to comic book stores, absolutely, stop working because you're not going to get paid. These publishers are not paying. Even the big guys, it's amazing to me. The big guys could easily continue these titles, and they really should. They have no concern for these independent contractors under contract to them to be able to continue to give them work. Yes, they would lose a little bit of money. They can afford it. Some of those titles will actually get canceled. Some of those titles would be published and collected. They should be. Obviously, the creators don't make enough money that they can afford to all of a sudden just stop working. So Valiant was the biggest hit before that. Well, Valiant, I want to talk too much about Valiant because I know the publisher and I know a little bit about Valiant, but I will tell you this much about Valiant. They are not going out of business. They're not going to stop putting out comics, and they're not going to stop making movies. They have millions and millions and millions of dollars behind them. So if Valiant stops putting out new books for a little while, that's their business. And they may stop putting out new books, but you're not going to see Valiant Comics close up shop. Although the new iteration of Valiant Comics would do well without Heather Antos. And they need to focus more on the way Valiant was when it relaunched originally in 2012. What was that, Valiant 3.0? I'd like to see that. But Valiant's not going anywhere. And they're very happy with the success of what Bloodshot did in context of what it did. They're going to do a lot more stuff. Marvel, IDW, Dark Horse, and Ani. How about Lion Forge collapsing? That was a good one. Because it's just garbage stuff. If nobody cares about the books, you will not have a comic book company ultimately. And that's companies like Valiant have to think about that. All comic book publishers have to think about that. If people don't care about the comics, they can't just be buying them because they love comics. That's right. Sylvester Stallone is CG. So we're going to have a time limit on Arnold Schwarzenegger. Because if he doesn't come over to CG soon, maybe he can give us Total Recall, The Terminator, something like that. I don't know if we're going to be able to keep up with the CG Arnold Schwarzenegger guy. He's got to think about that. This is a good question, Donut Swan. And I'm very good at the business and the legal advice. How do we dupe some rube into investing into our failing comic book company? I assume you're asking for a friend, Mike Miller. Well, it's actually not that difficult to find people that want to invest in comic book companies. I did it once. I dealt with investors at one of my comic book companies. And it's not really because I wanted to. It just, I needed the money. I didn't really need the money. It was just sort of like it was an opportunity, and these guys were really interested, and they were millionaires, and they wanted to do comic books. But if you want to do comic books and you want investors to back you doing comic books, it ain't that hard. It ain't that hard. But you should have some sort of business plan. Mitch found investors to sell comics on a returnable basis to Walmart, and I hope that works out. As Peter Samedi said, they may have problems if they sold the comics returnable to Walmart, because returnable comic books don't work in mass market outlets anymore, because they don't work. It just doesn't work. If it worked, it'd be great. It just doesn't work. But as far as investors go, I know that was kind of a jokey question, but I would, yeah, where is Red Rooster is a fair question. It's supposed to come out next month, but there is problems with printers. I don't know. I hope it comes out. He really just needs to ship it. I'm sure out of the CG, so I heard. Well, we're gonna have to find out about that. We're gonna have to find out about that. Um, Red Rooster, I'm sure will come out eventually. I think maybe it should have come out already. Would have been a good idea. I see Mitch drawing on streams. Um, yes, Commie Mark. I think you should ask local newsstands and news agents to support your comic, but wait until you have your Not Daredevil humor comic out. But then definitely anything you're no. It's no one says, I like that name. Walmart is pay to scan. They only pay for what book sells. Good Lord. Good Lord. Oh my God. Oh my God. Well, I am concerned about Mitch Bright. I was concerned about Mitch Breitweiser a year ago when I heard that plan. I hope he did not. If you ever take on, here's some business and legal advice, and I hope Mitch did not do this. If you ever take on an investor, get your own lawyer, not the investor's lawyer. Both of my investors were lawyers in the past in that one project we did. Get your own lawyer. Never sign personally to guarantee the money as a loan. I did not. I never would. But there are investors that will put money into a company, comic company, any kind of company, and they ask you to sign personally to guarantee the loan. And with the idea of like, well, we put in $500,000, so we just want to make sure we get paid back, and it's probably going to be successful anyway. But if it isn't successful, then the company will pay back. But if the company can't pay back, it's important that you kind of guarantee it. Investors, business owners do that sometimes. Never, never guarantee a loan personally. Never, never. Because this kind of stuff is going to happen. Like, businesses do have ups and downs, and the whole purpose of having a business is that you're separate. It's a separate entity from you personally, and people that you work with, they understand that. That's a more complicated legal business thing, but let's just pray that Mitch did not personally guarantee the money that was invested in his company in case something, and for anybody, don't do that. I don't think Arnold owns Total Recall. Well, then we could license it, maybe. I don't know. The thing is the great franchises that are owned by big companies like G.I. Joe, fucking let it die already. Just let it die. We loved them as kids, and they were great for what they were. But unless someone is like really going to take care of the property forever, it's ultimately going to be ruined eventually anyway. So I'm making College of the Dead. It's going to go on forever, 2 books a year with the same creative team. And if not, I'll hire better people. I'm not going to let it ever lose what's special about College of the Dead. Book 2 is going to ship in June 2020. Book 3 is going to ship January 2021. I'm publishing The Mermaids, which is Game of Thrones with mermaids. I'm going to make sure that that book is good forever. Even the creator of Game of Thrones couldn't make sure that his TV show was good forever because he lost control over it. Create your own things and support people that are making their own things, as long as you like the stuff. But keep a preference for it, because really, would you want your kids to be raised on today's Spider-Man or whatever they're going to do 2 years from now with Spider-Man? Do you want your kid to love Spider-Man when you don't even know what Spider-Man's going to be in 2 or 3 years? I'm not saying that they can't make inclusive agendas of whatever they want to do, but I wouldn't want to raise a kid these days and have him like loving and holding on to a Spider-Man toy. And that progressive people are out there, abusing that relationship with that iconic character to just put whatever their crazy agendas are. And I just say crazy because they keep changing it. It's not even consistent. So we got to let the old franchises go. They're not good anymore. We can enjoy the old stuff and take inspiration from it. Jackrabbits is definitely inspired by my love for Ninja Turtles, and I am old enough that I was out there when Ninja Turtles came out. I was a kid. I bought Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #3 off the stands, the green green cover. It was like white and green, and that was cool. And it was fun. Everybody was going nuts for animal parody comics back then. It was really cool. But it's over. It's done. I mean, look what they did with the Ninja Turtles. They added that weird female character that has multiple whatever. Just ridiculous stuff. You can do a public domain College of the Dead 95 years from now, and it will be terrible. Well, I appreciate that, Dale. I hope we all live long enough to see it. We might. I was there when God invented the turtles. Yeah, no, I was around during that black and white boom when that came out. That was pretty cool. Marvel needs to reprint their old stuff. You can't even find it outside of 150 omnibus. Well, you know what, Donald Swan? I don't know if you've noticed or not, but Marvel is making changes to their old comics. So they're taking like Wolverine's freaking cigar out of his mouth for whatever bizarre, disgusting reason. So you can't even trust reprints of old stuff. There's like this guy knows all this stuff. Hamster Vice, Fish Police, Boris the Bear, Ebon Warrior, Rave. Yeah. Yep. That's the old black and white comic stuff. Cecil and me were looking at old black and white comics. I got to do a show with Cecil just doing that. Cecil's got like a lot of freaking comics. So he was going through a box with me on his channel, and a bunch of some of the people liked it, some of the people hated it. But on my channel, we can get away with it. Going through old black and white comics. He said he would drop off a box of them to my house. I would love that. I got to hit him up for that. And maybe we could try and explain to Witten what they are. Cecil is a fake geek girl. Yeah, he might be. He needs to be checked. If he comes to my house, I could stream with him at my house, which would be kind of funny. It would be like more than kind of funny. I kind of need that to get some excitement going for College of the Dead and for cash grab too. I could grab his cash, or he could grab my cash. I could be holding cash. He could grab it right away from me and then run out, and I could live stream that. Next thing you know, it's going to make it so that Greedo shot. Yeah, I mean, Greedo can shoot first. Marvel's capable of doing anything. So this stuff, if you're going to care about it, you have to think about how much you trust the creator who owns the character and who's passionate about the story. That's a decision you got to make. It's amazing. Good cigars are phallic, and Edwin blames X-Men for his father's proclivities. Edwin's a very, very strange man. He's a very strange man. Adam has the best ideas for advertisement. I like that. Thank you, Zofrats. I'm going to see if Cecil will go for it. I'll hit him up. He's great people. So DC Comics, well, look at this. It just has a funny way of putting this. Image Comics generally does without creator page rates. They do without them generally, with more responsibility for production in the hands of the lead creators, which has left creators making individual decisions whether to continue or not. I don't know why he can't just say this. The way that Image Comics work is it's fee for service. They charge you $2,000 to use your comic, take your comic that you pay for to produce, and publish it through Image's system with their name on it. Antonio Palacio, look at that, says Edwin comes straight out of a comic book. I don't believe that Edwin is straight. It's possible, but not the way he acts around Mike. So what Image does is they're a fee for service. They charge you a $2,000 fee, all right? A $2,000 fee for the privilege of publishing your comic through Image. And then you have to pay all the printing. They do promote it inside of their Image listing in Diamond, but that's their business. That's what they do. All right. We're getting a visit soon from the Scotsman. We'll get you in a second, Mr. Scotsman. So that's what Image is doing. But Image is telling people they're going to. All right. So Image announced that they're going to publish comics returnable now. And, basically, it's not Todd McFarlane paying for that if it's returnable. It's all the individual creators paying for that. The individual creators who've been publishing through Image Comics haven't been making much money. There's a couple of hits through Image Comics, Walking Dead, Saga, whatever. Yeah, there's a few of them, but most of them make little or no money. And now they're going to make less than no money. They're going to lose money if they try to publish books through Image, as long as they're returnable. Diamond has laid people off. Image laid off 4 people. They laid off production people. They laid off editorial people, like proofreaders or whatnot. And now DC Comics is joining what he's calling the big pause. DC Comics has told most creators that they were still full steam ahead. That's not true. That's just not true. Because from the people I talked to who were names that were doing stuff for DC, that they basically said, no, we need you to stop right now. So in any case, this is what he claims. Editorials see an opportunity to use this time to get ahead, to put pages in the bank, get some titles that have been slipping as of late back on schedule. Well, that's how they should look at it. There should be no DC titles that are paused because they have more than enough money and because they're supposed to be trying to maintain their relationship with their creators. Creators need to eat and stuff. So if you're a multi-billion-dollar company, yes, you could lose a couple of $1 million producing some extra pages, and it is good business if you plan on being in business in the future. You got to, as a publisher, always remember creators have to eat, and if they take your work, they're taking your work instead of other work. So you want to make sure they didn't make a mistake working for you. Because right now, if those DC Comics people who were put on pause, who were basically just said, listen, we have to stop you from working, pencils down. We're not paying you for any new work. We'll pay you for the old stuff, but nothing new. The creators that made commitments to DC, they could have worked for other companies. They could have done crowdfunding. They could have been Comicsgate. They could have done animation. They could have done a lot of stuff. But now, what good is that going to do them? So, yeah. Anyway, supposedly Johnson's saying he's told that a few creators on DC's Black Label Mature Readers line and 5G projects have been told to cease production. 5G. Now, does that make any sense? Why would a few of the creators be on pause? The same thing happened with Marvel. Marvel made an announcement that a third of their titles were being put on pause. Suspended. You know what that means? What that means is this. There are some titles that are completely done. They can't do anything about stuff that's done or that's like 90 to 95% done. They may, why aren't they using this time to get ahead is right. Because they know there's no future, right? Donut Swan? So if Marvel is announcing, and they were, that a third of their titles are being put on pause, what they, for new work, what they mean to say is, well, those are the ones that aren't complete yet. So these were comics for May and June. So similarly with DC, what the translation is whatever's done or almost done is basically done. There's no point in having one more page to go and then telling people, oh, you know what? We've got one more page to go. Stop working. They may as well just finish it at that point because it's like 90%, 95% done. It's more of an inconvenience to not have it done. So it's petty cash. But when it comes time to books that are like half done or people who are about to start drawing it, but the script is done, those are the books that DC and Marvel are telling. It's so dishonest of them to describe it this way. Those are the books for DC and Marvel that are being stopped, that aren't continuing right now. The ones that are that are not almost done. And what that says is they have no idea what they're going to do about publishing in the future. Essentially, everything is canceled if it's not already completed. But if it's already completed and not really starting new work, then what the hell are they doing? It's all canceled. Bleeding Cool is saying that they've learned of an editorial and production shift to get DC's kids and young adult line moving out faster than originally planned. So they're redirecting. It's like, well, we know the comics are basically all ruined, so we're going to move towards this young adult line stuff. The bookstore market is still distributing with Penguin Random House. That is true. The bookstore distribution is still going with DC Comics, and DC Comics says they found a replacement printer for Transcontinental Printing, who's their regular printer, which is going to cause tremendous disruption for Transcontinental Printing should they ever decide to start publishing comics again. They found a replacement printer, but that's going to cover not comics. See, I can tell you more than Rich Johnson can tell you, because it's not like I'm getting that much inside information. I know a couple of people, but it's because I know how the system works. So I don't know if even Rich Johnson understands this. When he says that DC Comics has found a replacement printer, he means for the trade paperbacks, not for the comics, because there's no distribution for the comics. There's no open stores. There's no distributor to physically move them around. So they found a replacement printer for the trade books. This week, Gotham's High original graphic novel may be just what DC Comics needed. Yes, Gotham High is obviously going to save DC Comics for both print and digital. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Overall, there's a lot of belt tightening going on. Even self-publishers, digital publishers, those who ship directly to retailers, readers are noticing a drop-off for paid content as people's incomes drop. Now, this is interesting. This is total bullshit. It's complete effing nonsense. Ethan Van Sciver is doing tremendous business on Cyberfrog. Let's take a look at Cyberfrog. Cyberfrog. I wonder if Cyberfrog has seen a tremendous drop off because, you know, there's a pandemic going on and people are tightening their belts and, you know, they can't afford to be buying comics no matter what, even if they're crowdfunded. You know, they can't, you know, they're just not interested anymore. Well, let's look at Cyberfrog. Are people interested in that? Oh, yeah, they seem to be. 4,264 people are interested in that. There's still 6 days left. He's got $492,000 raised. He sold 1,134 of the honeycomb box, the executive honey. I don't know why he calls it executive. I have to ask him that, but I like the sound of it. Executive honeycomb box set, VIP. 1,134 out of 2,500. So he's almost to $500,000. Obviously, he's going to get to $500,000 in at least, you know, within the next few days. 4,264 backers, an average of $100 plus per backer, which is the backer average that Brian Polito has for Lady Death. So you know that Ethan is working his numbers properly because his average is good. And this is where you guys want to be if you're going to crowdfund. You get to that $100 per backer average. It doesn't mean everyone spends $100. It means that you have a way that people can spend more money when they want to. That people can spend less money when they want to. But that's a magic number, and Ethan's hitting it perfectly. So I guess it's not accurate to say that. Looking this up. Not accurate to say that people are tightening their belts. Not when it comes to Ethan Van Sciver. You know, not when it comes to this project. I mean, this project just started yesterday. You have to make things that people want. It's that easy, right? Spawn, when we started this, he hadn't gotten to 800,000 yet. When I started this stream 2 hours ago. And now look at this damn thing. Where's the belt tightening? Is Spawn wearing a belt? Maybe he's closing it tightly around his waist. I don't know. There's no belt tightening there. I mean, College of the Dead, I don't have the platform that Ethan does. And this isn't the same kind of project that Cyberfrog is. But I'm doing 500% of what I did the first time around. I'm not noticing any belt tightening. I'm noticing I'm getting a lot of tremendous support. I can't thank you guys enough for that. Definitely back College of the Dead. It's a great book. It's shipping June 2020. And share the link if you would. I've got 28 days to add to my total as well. So I don't really see the same belt tightening that Rich Johnson sees. And this is why it's so important to just make really good comics. And yet another successful comic is Xenotype. Since we have the colors for Xenotype with us, let's just take a quick look at Xenotype and see how that's been doing. What a passionate, cool project. And then, guys, I have to end in not too long because I got to get some more work done. Keep the comics coming out. A lot of exciting things to be done. Xenotype is up to 23,000. That's fantastic. So Xenotype already exceeded its goal. It's got 239 backers. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of belt tightening going on over at the Xenotype company. They're zooming along. They've got a great looking book. Their book is almost complete and is definitely going to be shipping on time in January 2021, if not sooner. I like that he picked that ship date. And if you look at their backer average, you see 23,000 US, 239 backers. There's your $100 per backer average. And they're doing it with their first book, which is excellent. This is a little bit of to get Xenotype, you can get in at $25. That's great. You can get the variant cover book with Blade Devil. That's going to be very cool. And of course, there are multiple editions and collectible versions you can get. But guys, definitely let's put Xenotype in the chat as well, and make sure people have a chance to back Xenotype. And I appreciate you guys going over this with me today. It was Xenotype looks scary. It's a dystopian future type of deal. It's science fiction-y. I can't do that, Donut Swan. I'm not going to plow myself. It takes time to make these comic books and stuff. I should do some live streams when we're going over scripts and stuff like that and get feedback from you guys too. But there's a limit to what we can do with that. But we can definitely share some character designs and stuff. Let me try and do that for tomorrow. Guy from Red Bank has the Executive Honeycomb box set. Guys, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Click the bell for notifications as well. And let's help get me to 1,000 subs. Nova Blast, Adam, I love your CG how-to analysis videos. Cool. Any thought about how to making a how-to book or website which distills all the information to help newbies? No, but my friend Kirk is going to work on a how-to publish comics site soon. I don't know exactly when, and I don't know exactly what he wants me discussing about that. He's got a lot of information really well organized. I will appear with him on any YouTube he wants talking about it. The Secrets of the Comicsgate Network video series that I do is organized in a playlist finally, so that is a good thing to check through. You get a lot of good information on that. But we do need to get more organized content together. I kind of take it as a responsibility. We got to see that it gets done, because the main thing is we don't need any friction created by people making unnecessary mistakes and hurting themselves in publishing. Like, one really easy one is you never print with a printer who doesn't already do comics and trade paperbacks. It's totally unnecessary. When you're an expert, you can go and develop and teach printers how to do that. Until that point, printers are going to be teaching you how to do that. So you don't want to go and figure out and learn how to format everything. Even printers that are capable of printing comics and books will do them wrong. So that's why I like to recommend mixam.com, because Mixam does a really high quality job. They have very reasonable prices, and they do short run printing, and it's quick turnaround. For more experienced publishers, they know about transcontinental printing, and they're good for higher runs and super specialty covers and things like that. But there's no reason to start with a big company like that. You can go to a mixam.com and find it out. Mostly you get a lot also from watching John Malin's YouTube streams. His advice is really excellent. Clint gives some decent advice with his Sweetcast channel. And you can learn a lot just by observing other people and asking direct questions. Yeah, Matt Fowler is going to print something new with Mixam very soon. A unique format of something. If you're talking about the book that I'm thinking you're talking of, a special art book. This is the best advice we could all give you. Subscribe to Adam Post. Do it now. I have to get the chopper now. He's got to get to the chopper. Guy's hysterical. Hale Malin is right. And Ethan Van Sciver gives good advice on publishing for crowdfunding as well. And when he gives advice, it should really be taken super seriously, because he's telling you usually things that he wants you to know so that you don't make the same mistake that he did about something. Or if he sees an opportunity, like he's recently reminded people, hey, make sure you overprint, target 25%, because you will sell those back issues as long as you continue with sequels, as long as you continue publishing. And the cost to print extra copies past 400 copies at Mixam, especially, I know, is incredibly cheap. To go from printing 399 to 400 is like $4 per book. To go from printing 400 to 401, the extra book is $1.16, which is incredibly cheaper. So look for that. And yeah, listen to people that make money. When you see people make money, listen to them. Stay the hell away from guys who are anti-CG that are trying to give advice, because they're looking for more than just trying to help you. They're looking to take something away from you. And they're very creepy, the anti-CG people. So I would watch out for those guys for sure. Guys, I really appreciate you. Thanks for backing the books that are in the chat. I'm going to wrap it up. I will see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you. I hope you know that. Talk to you soon, guys. Have a great one.